charcoal or navy suit, right? Well tailored. Okay. So, Sputnik. Okay, who can describe Sputnik to me? Oh, come on, Sputnik. It's the first satellite in the back. What's such a big deal about Sputnik?
It was the first satellite to go out of space, but it was from the Russians.
Yeah, it was from the Russians. Good ads there. And it was to go out of space. Weren't we psyched about Sputnik?
No.
We were really scared of it. All right. So this is what provided the political motivation to do things like the space program in the 60s. Right? There was no cost that was too high. And in fact, it was extremely, extremely popular to go to space, which is not the case now, right? Here's Eisenhower looking at some space stuff. Kennedy looking at some space stuff. Here's Kennedy and Khrushchev. Who's Khrushchev? Soviet Prime Minister, good.
He was crazy.
I just found a bunch of really cool pictures, by the way. But look how look how flimsy this looks, but you see that? And they were going to send that to space. They did send that to space, right? I think this is Gemini rocket, or the orbiting thing. Actually, von Braun has this great quote where he says that the thing that was true about NASA in the 60s and the reason they were able to send people to space was also just because there was no bureaucracy. And they didn't really double check things, they didn't triple check things. Now, when you do something at NASA, it takes forever, right? Because they don't want people to burn up in space and stuff like that. But then it was kind of slap some metal on it, send it to space, see how it works, right? Now it takes forms and, you have to have 50 forms to do anything in NASA, right? That's kind of the problem with bureaucracy. All right, anyone name these people? LBJ and Spiro Agnew. Watching the rockets take off. I think this is a great picture. I think it demonstrates my earlier point. Who's this? Richard Nixon. He's a handsome gentleman, right? This is with the Apollo 11 astronauts. They had to be quarantined when they came back, so he's looking at them through glass. It's a really awkward picture. Because they thought there might be space diseases. They didn't know. They had no idea. Right? So,
in fact, there's a book that's written that's called Diseases from Space that was written during that time.
Right, yeah. There was a pretty... They had no idea what was going to happen when they sent people to space. Right? They thought that there was a pretty strong feeling that there was a chance that your internal organs just might explode. And honestly, I can't explain why they don't. I can't explain that. Right? How does your intestine not just come up to into the top of your body cavity? I don't know. Gravity performs a lot of functions on the human body, and we didn't know how the body was going to interact with that. We also thought that there might be a bunch of, it's the great unknown, right? There's no way to know. All right. Here's some more Cold War pictures. Who's this? This is a little later. He's talking to the International Space Station. And here is a president. Which one? H.W. He's also talking at NASA. So I got a lot of pictures of presidents at NASA. All right. So let's fast forward today. What do we think the modern issues of the space program are? And I think we've kind of covered a lot of this. So I want to briefly go over the three main components of the modern space program and how those interact with politics. But I think this is a pretty cool picture, though. This is at the entrance to the Kennedy Space Center, or at least to the part where they work. And it's the part of the NASA, the bill that establishes NASA, and that's kind of their charter. And so it shall be the duty of the Advisory Committee for the Aeronautics to supervise and direct the scientific study of the problems of flight with a view to their practical solutions. That's what NASA is supposed to do, at least originally conceived. And so what the space program now does is a lot more than that, right? It's really big. So the first thing we have is what we call the civil space program. NASA is probably the most visible part of this. NASA goes to space, but what else does NASA do? They have spin-off products, right? And that's what makes it civil, right? And that it's interacting with the federal government providing products and things to people. NASA also does a lot of things in terms of scientific discovery and trying to push how we can do things in space. And they have a lot of it's a really big organization, yes? NASA has a couple of key things to think about. It employs a lot of people in terms of politics, right? Why does that matter for politics? The economy, right? The economy matters, but also, what is related? What's related to that in terms of jobs? Money? Yeah, and employment. Just employment in general is important. Unemployment numbers, things like that. And so when you cut NASA, you cut lots of jobs. Where are those jobs typically? Florida and Texas, right? So representatives from Florida and Texas. There's also a bunch of NASA in Cleveland, Ohio, actually, where I'm from. There's a big NASA place where they work on these spin-offs that we talked about here just a second ago. So representatives from those states tend to really care about the question of NASA, right? Because they have to protect those home state jobs, right? Yes. All right. The other part of NASA is the military space program. This tends to be things like our spy satellite, ASATs, although they don't exist, right? All of these kinds of issues of space mill that have been discussed in Terrence lectures and all of our space mill DAs, answers, advantages, whatever. All of these things, though, tend to be black programs. What are black programs? Who says it over here? Secret. Yes, they're secret, right? Black programs don't even exist as visible parts of the budget, right? So we don't even know exactly what they are. These tend to not be all that political, in the sense that it's hard for people to have a perception of something that they don't know about, right? And that's what matters to politics, is whether or not people know about what's going on. Now, people in Congress can be upset because there are congressional committees that have oversight on some of this stuff, but a lot of times people in Congress are pretty supportive of the military. Is that, I think that's a fair thing to say, but you know, that's changing now too, right? What might be happening to kind of change the way that we think about military issues? What? And it's ending? Spending, yes, spending, yes. But what else have we been doing with regards to the military for like the last 10 years?
Wars and Middle East.
Yeah.
We've been fighting wars.
We've been fighting 2 wars. We did just debate this, didn't we? This whole topic of military deployment, Jeff? Right, right. And did you have like politics this based on withdrawal or support of the military?
Yeah.
Yeah. The slight difference there, the difference between the military topic and the space topic is that these kind of military projects are, you can't secretly send people to Afghanistan to start a war there, right? That can't really be a secret, right? But you can have a secret space satellite, right? Or try at least, right? So these military space programs tend to be a little more covert. They tend to be more covered by the intelligence agencies. What are our intelligence agencies? The CIA and the Secret Service, right? And those intelligence agencies tend to have a little less pushback on from Congress than broader military issues from the DoD, right? Okay. Then there are commercial space programs, which I've subtitled $dollar bills. All right, who's this? Anybody? Richard Branson. Thanks, is that Brett? Okay, good. Thanks, Brett, for answering questions in the lecture.
Yeah.
Sorry, I knew you did it. Good job. All right, what does Richard Branson want to do with space?
I think it's commercial.
He wants to commercialize it. He wants to send people to space. But this has an interaction with politics. Why? Anybody want to speculate? Seneca, why might commercial space flight have an interaction with politics? You're the political expert. Does Richard Branson have a lot of money? Yeah, he has a lot of money. Okay, in the back.
You can lobby, like.
Lobbying, yeah. Good. Good. What is lobbying? Senator.
It's when certain special interest groups go to the congressperson or senator and basically ask them to do this or that.
Yeah, exactly. They ask them to do this or that, and money helps with that. Money greases the wheels, they might say, right? So commercial things can be a little bit more popular in Congress, but both because there's money there, but also, okay, this whole fight over the budget, right, that's happening, a lot of Republicans would like this commercial space programs to replace the civil space program, right? And that would be by getting private companies to go to space, right? Don't we have a private aerospace ad written in the senior lab?
Writing a counterplan.
Oh, you're writing a counterplan. All right. So what does this presuppose, green shirt?
That instead of the federal government that does it, like private entities should do it.
Private entities like Richard Branson.
Yeah.
And is a politics is that a net benefit to that counterplan?
Yes.
Why so?
Because it wouldn't require any kind of political action by the president.
Okay.
And then there's also the net benefit of we've gotten evidence that private companies will commercialize it and make it better, so there'll be more money.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to add something too. I'm going to say that a counterplan is popular with Republicans. And I would even say that the president could do it. Just cede that control to a private company, and Republicans would like that. It might be permutable in that instance. But this is something to think about. Republicans, and particularly far-right, maybe even Tea Party Republicans, really like the idea of just having commercial people or entities do space projects. They don't think the federal government should be involved, and they'd like these people to take it over. So Richard Branson will be your next Buzz Aldrin, right? They like this idea. All right. The problem with the space program now is that we don't have the Cold War as motivation anymore. And that is what I was kind of trying to demonstrate earlier with the question of the Cold War, Sputnik, being willing to collaborate with Wernher von Braun, putting pretty much any resource necessary into NASA. We don't have that anymore, right? So what is the motivation to go to space now? What is the reason why we would do it? Get off the rock. Okay, do we really care about getting off the rock?
No.
Politically? No. Okay, what else? Versus alternative energy. Does that really sell well with the public? Like in a presidential debate, and if I'm going to give my speech, I would like to go to the moon to mine it for resources and helium-3. Do you think that would be a good clip on CNN? No. All right, so let's try another one.
Be like a leader in space.
Be a leader in space. Okay, that I think is something that could be a good argument. And that is something like the argument that we used during the Cold War, right? Russia's beating us there. Sorry, I ran into you here. Russia's beating us there. We need to get there first, right? It's easier to sell things to people when you have an enemy, right? So who might beat us there now? China. The restaurant, okay, again, let's try to keep it down on the stereotypes.